In this video, I'm going to show you how to make circular or radial indicators like this in Unity. So let's start with the ring indicator. So first we're going to make an overlay canvas to set the scene up. Right click in the hierarchy, go to UI and then canvas, and by default it's going to be a screen space overlay. Right click on the canvas, go to UI and then image. And the sprite we're going to use for this ring is the ring image, which you can download in the description below. So apply the sprite, the ring image sprite there. And then what we want to do is set this to the image type. We want to change it to filled. We're going to leave it as Radial 360, and we're going to start at the bottom. When we update the fill amount here from the image, we're going to have this update in code. We want access to the image, and we're going to need access to unityengine.ui. We're going to make a public variable that is that image component. I made this script, I called it Radial Progress UI. So we're going to make a public function, and we're going to name it update radial. And we're going to be passing in a speed. So we're going to update the fill amount, and we're going to use time delta time, and we're going to multiply speed to that. And we're going to throw this onto two different keys so we can see it in real time. So if I hold down the key of E, we're going to update the radial by, let's just say, 1. And if we hold down the key of R, we're going to update the radial by the opposite, -1. So once the code is compiled, drag on the Radial Progress UI to your image, and then you'll want to drag the image itself to that little public image variable. So when you hit R, it'll bring down the fill amount, and when you hold down E, it brings up the fill amount. If you want the color to change from, say, like green to red, depending on the fill amount, so to do that, you do use image.color equals color.lerp. We want to pass in the first color of red, and then the next color green, and then we want to pass in the image fill amount. So when it reaches 0, it's going to be red. When it reaches 1, it'll be green, and then anything in between. And we're also going to want to update this to make sure that the color it starts off with a specific color too. So add this to start. So you run the scene again. Notice it starts off as green. Hold down R, and you'll see the color change depending on what the fill amount is. If you want to show a percentage, or maybe use this as like a health bar, you could add current amount and max amount to this script, and we can use text to show it. So first I'm going to add current amount and max amount, and we're going to set this to say 100. Make sure the current amount defaults to the max amount at the beginning of the game. And then we're going to take this value, or this right here, and instead of adding it to the fill amount like that, we're going to add it to the current amount. And then the fill amount will equal the current amount divided by max amount. And then this 1 right here, we're going to make it more of a variable so we have control over the speed. So I'm going to call this Lerp speed, and we're going to make it 15. And I'm going to replace these numbers with Lerp speed. Now we want to create a text variable. Let's call this label. And then the label text will get modified here in start and in the update radial function. So this is actually going to equal the current amount divided by max amount. We'll put parentheses over it, and we're going to add a percentage symbol to it. And then down here, we're going to copy this label text, and we're going to add it to our update radial function. So I'm going to add it right here. And you're going to want to multiply this by 100. So let's add some text to our image. So I'm going to right click the image, go to UI, and then go to Legacy, Text. I'm going to increase the font size to 20. I'm going to increase the font size to 25. We're going to make the position Y. We're going to set it to 50. And I'm going to change the alignment to center so you can see it. And also change the font style to bold. And now that we have a text variable or a label, drag that text to the label variable. So when you run the scene, it'll start out at 100%. Hold down R and notice it'll go down as you're holding down R. To get rid of those decimals, you're going to want to add a mathf.floor to this whole calculation right here. So I'm going to do type in mathf.floor, and we're going to wrap this whole percentage within that math.floor. And then I'm also going to do down here in the updated radial function mathf.floor, and we're going to wrap this whole thing in that as well. So now the percentage will get calculated within the floor function. So run the scene again, hold down R, and notice that it removes the decimals, and now we have more of it's like whole numbers getting removed. If you wanted to get a little fancy, you could add a background image. So go to UI image, and you could put it behind the text so it's more visible. Once you make the image, go to the sprite, select it, and then you can just look up UI, and then type in and find UI sprite. You can make text a parent of that background image. And what I like to do is set this to 0 so it's centered to the image itself. We're going to rename this to background. I'm gonna unparent that label. And this ring image right here, we're going to rename this to Radial. And I'm going to change the scale of this radial to 3. If you run the scene, you can mess around with the background. You could, change the height to 50 or something. So the label matches up, but it just makes it a little more visible. If you want your radial to look more like a pie chart, you can always make the circle sprite, and we can update it with more of an increment as opposed to using time delta time. So to make the circle sprite, just right click one of your folders or in your project, go to create, and then look for 2D sprites, and then go to circle. And I'm going to call this radial circle. And I'm going to drag on the radial circle to the source image. And notice here when you mess with the fill amount, it changes it like a pie chart. So in the code, what we're going to do is instead of changing it by delta time, I'm going to remove this and leave that speed variable there. So it's just going to be plus equals speed. Or really it should be like damage or something, but I'm just going to leave it as speed. I'm going to change this get key to up. rerun the scene, and then keep clicking R, and notice it'll take a little chunk out of the radial. Hit E, and then it recreates that. So what you could do is you could add some text here in the center to indicate how much life is left. So to do that, you could just go to so that same label we made earlier, drag it over here, and instead of a percent, we're going to get rid of the percentage. So go back to your script. So we're going to get rid of all this, and the text is just going to say current amount to string. And then get rid of the floor and the max amount, and just make this current amount to string. Run the scene, hit R, and you'll see that the number will update based on your current amount. And what you could do is you could always add a background behind the radial, so you could, like, you could change this as red. So if I go to UI image and I add that radial circle to this sprite, and I move it behind the radial, increase the scale to 3, and then I could change it to say like red. Now it looks like the there's some background behind it, like you're losing health. So that's it for this tutorial. If you have any questions or comments about it, just post it down below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.